Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Michael Torres never thought his life would fall apart over a casual comment during dinner. At 38, he'd built a solid career as a criminal defense attorney in Brooklyn, known for cracking cases everyone else gave up on. His obsessive attention to detail, ability to read between the lines, and sharp instinct for inconsistencies made him feared in courtrooms. But those same skills, so sharp in the courtroom, stayed strangely quiet at home, until that October Tuesday. The table was set with Amanda's usual care: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, a fresh green salad. Lucas, 9, chattered about his math test, while Emma, 6, drew unicorns on a recycled notebook. Michael had just come off a long day preparing closing arguments for a complex federal case. He was tired, distracted, already thinking about the next sessions. That's when Lucas, mid-bite of chicken, casually dropped, "Mom has a new friend. He's cool. Took us out for ice cream." Michael felt something cold crawl up his spine. It wasn't exactly alarm, it was the same feeling he got in court when a witness gave a slightly off answer. He looked up slowly. Amanda had frozen, fork halfway to her mouth, eyes locked on her plate. The tension lasted only 2 seconds before she forced a smile. "What friend, Lucas?" Michael asked, keeping his tone light. Amanda jumped in quickly. "Oh, Daniel. A vendor from the office. Just once, it was work-related. He had to drop off some contracts and ended up giving the kids a ride." "Nothing." But Lucas, oblivious to the rising tension, shook his head. "No, Mom. It wasn't once. It was 3 times. Remember when he gave you flowers that day we went to the park?" The boy smiled, pleased he'd corrected what he thought was his mother's forgetfulness. The silence that settled over the table was thick as fog. Amanda opened her mouth, closed it, tried to laugh. "Oh, right. I forgot about those other times. But they were just work stuff, really." Michael watched his wife. 11 years of marriage had taught him how to read every micro-expression on her face. The flush on her cheeks. The way her eyes darted left, classic sign of a lie. Her fingers fidgeting with the napkin. Every detail screamed what she wouldn't say. He finished dinner in silence. Helped Emma with her homework, tucked the kids in, and waited. Waited for Amanda to take her long shower, put on her face cream, slip into her cotton pajamas, the same ones she wore every night. Waited until she was asleep. Then, at 11:37 p.m., Michael picked up her phone from the nightstand. He knew the password. Always had. It was Lucas's birthdate, something Amanda never changed because it was easy to remember. He unlocked the phone and started searching. Recent calls. Texts. Emails. At first, nothing obvious. But Michael knew where to look. He spent days digging through digital evidence for criminal cases. He found the messaging app hidden inside a folder labeled Recipes. Opened it. And there it was, 7 months of messages between Amanda and Daniel Reeves. They weren't professional. They weren't about contracts or deliveries. They were words that cut through Michael like broken glass. "You make everything more intense," Amanda had written 2 weeks ago. "I can't wait until Thursday," Daniel replied. Messages about hotel meetings. References to Our Place, a cafe in Park Slope Michael had never been to. Photos she'd sent, smiling selfies, some taken in their own bathroom, others in places he didn't recognize. And the most recent one, from last night: "Can't wait for Thursday. It'll be our longest night yet." Michael scrolled back further. The messages started in March, 7 months ago. Began timid, professional, then turned to flirting, then declarations. And buried in a June conversation was the message that shattered him. Daniel had asked, "What about the kids? How does this work?" And Amanda had replied, with a casualness that turned Michael's blood to ice, "They'll adapt." Kids always adapt. It's better they grow up seeing their mom happy than in a home without love. Michael looked at Amanda sleeping beside him, breathing calmly, face relaxed. Who was this person? In 11 years, he thought he knew her completely. Now he realized he only knew the version she let him see. But Michael Torres wasn't a man who acted on impulse. Not in court. Not in life. He built cases. Gathered evidence. Planned strategy. And that's exactly what he did. The next morning, he kissed Amanda goodbye before heading to the office. Long day. I'll be late, he said. She nodded, relieved he seemed clueless. Michael drove to his office, cancelled all his appointments, and called Vincent Cardoso, the former private investigator who'd worked on 3 of his criminal cases. I need everything in 36 hours, Michael said, sitting in the empty conference room. I want to know who this guy is, where he works, if he's married, his history, everything. And I need photographic proof of every meeting. Vincent didn't ask unnecessary questions. I'll send 2 operatives. You'll have the report by Thursday morning. For those 36 hours, Michael performed like he was up for an Oscar. Came home at his usual time. Played with the kids. Talked to Amanda about trivial things, the school renovation, the leak in the laundry room, weekend plans. She was more relaxed now, convinced Lucas's comment had slipped past him unnoticed. On Thursday morning, as Amanda got ready for another corporate event, she even hummed in the shower. Michael was in the kitchen when Vincent's email arrived. He opened the attachment on his phone and felt the floor vanish beneath him, even though he'd braced for the worst. 43 pages. Photos with timestamps and geolocation. Amanda and Daniel entering the hotel within Williamsburg. Kissing in a supermarket parking lot. Holding hands at a cafe table. Leaving a movie theater together, the same theater Amanda had claimed she was at, with clients, 3 weeks earlier. But the report had more. Much more. Daniel Reeves, 34, wasn't an event consultant. He was a personal trainer with basic certification, working at a mid-level gym in the Bronx. Married 6 years to Jennifer Reeves, a grade school teacher. Father of 4-year-old twin girls. And he had a history, a 2019 lawsuit from a former client accusing him of inappropriate relationship and emotional extortion. The case was settled under a confidential agreement. Michael read it 3 times. Amanda wasn't the victim of a sweeping passion. She was the target. Daniel had a pattern: married women, financially stable, emotionally vulnerable. He seduced them, fed their fantasies, and eventually asked for financial help when the affair cooled. 3 women in the last 5 years. Amanda would be the 4th. Something shifted in Michael then. The pain was still there, deep, sharp, real. But it was covered by a layer of cold, controlled rage. The kind he used in court. Calculated. Lethal. That night, after sending Lucas and Emma to their grandparents with the excuse of a special weekend, Michael waited for Amanda to come home from what she called her happy hour with the office crew. She got back at 10:15 p.m., smelling of cheap wine and a cologne Michael now recognized from the photos, the same one Daniel wore. "Hey, love," she said, kicking off her shoes by the door. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was awful on the bridge." Michael was sitting at the kitchen table. Didn't stand. Just slid a thick envelope across the wooden surface. "Before you open this," he said, voice unnervingly calm, "I want you to know one thing. I had 11 years to know you, Amanda. It took me 36 hours to find out who you really are. Maybe I'm a better investigator than I am a husband." Amanda stared at the envelope like it was a venomous snake. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Slowly, she opened it. The first photo showed her and Daniel kissing in the parking lot. The second, entering the hotel. The third, and Michael saw the exact moment she went pale, was Daniel with his wife and twin daughters on a picnic, dated 2 weeks ago. "This isn't what it looks like," she started, voice cracking. Michael raised his hand, cutting her off. "No. Don't insult my intelligence now. You spent 7 months lying. You don't get to start telling truths just because you got caught." He pulled out a second folder, even thicker. "Know what's in here? Divorce papers. A full custody petition citing emotional abandonment and exposing our children to an inappropriate relationship. And this letter," he held up a separate envelope. "It's a copy of everything you said about Jennifer Reeves. Every message where you called her husband's wife an obstacle. Every joke about her daughters. All of it." Amanda's face went from white to green. "Michael, you're not going to." "I already sent it," he said, looking straight into her eyes. "At 6 p.m. Jennifer's probably already confronted her husband. Oh, and I checked, Daniel has a joint bank account with his wife. When she freezes the funds, and she will, because I attached the bank statements showing the hotels, it'll be interesting to see how long he stays in love with you." Amanda collapsed into her chair. Tears started rolling, but Michael felt only emptiness. She wasn't his wife crying anymore. She was a stranger living in his house. "The lawyers will contact you on Monday," he continued, gathering the papers. "You have until Sunday to pack your essentials. You can stay in the guest room until then. After that, you'll need to find another place. The house stays with me, it's in my name since we bought it. The kids come back Sunday night. I don't want you here when they arrive. Michael, please, we can talk." "Talk?" For the first time, his voice rose. "You said Lucas and Emma would adapt. That it was better for them to see their mom happy than in a home without love. But here's the funny part. I still loved you. Yesterday, before I found out everything, I still loved you. The house didn't lack love. It lacked loyalty. And that, Amanda, can't be fixed." He walked upstairs to the master bedroom, now his alone, and locked the door. He heard Amanda sobbing in the kitchen for hours. He didn't feel sorry. The next 3 months were a systematic war. Michael had irrefutable evidence. Amanda had no defense. Her lawyer, hired in a panic because the good ones already knew Michael and refused the case, tried to negotiate equal shared custody. Michael presented the messages where she called her own children a complication and said it would be easier if Michael took them more often. The judge, a veteran who'd seen Michael in other cases, had no doubts, 70-30 custody, with Amanda only getting the kids every other weekend. Minimal child support, she had a job and could support herself. Michael kept the house, the cars, the joint savings. Amanda walked out with clothes, a few pieces of furniture, and public humiliation. Because the story leaked. Michael didn't have to do anything. Jennifer Reeves, Daniel's betrayed wife, was an active social media user and posted it all. The Brooklyn community was smaller than it seemed. In 2 weeks, Amanda couldn't walk into a cafe without being stared at. Worse for her, she lost her job. Michael found out, through contacts, that the corporate events were lies. Amanda took time off claiming work obligations when she was really meeting Daniel. When the company found out, through records checks after the public scandal, they fired her for falsifying reports and misusing company resources. Daniel disappeared completely. Jennifer filed a bitter divorce, seeking sole custody of the twins and presenting her husband's history of affairs. The gym fired him after 3 clients canceled contracts citing inappropriate behavior. The last Michael heard, Daniel was living with his mother in Queens, teaching online classes for pennies. And Amanda? In the months that followed, Michael only saw her during custody exchanges. She'd lost weight, developed deep dark circles, started smoking, something she'd hated when they were married. She lived in a studio apartment in Bushwick, working as an administrative assistant making half her old salary. It was a Saturday in March, almost a year later, that the most significant encounter happened. Michael was at Prospect Park with Lucas and Emma. The kids ran ahead, chasing a friendly dog, when Amanda showed up for her bi-weekly visit. She carried a plastic bag with cheap toys, a $5 doll for Emma, a wind-up car for Lucas. The kids accepted them politely, but without the excitement they'd shown a year ago. Emma hugged her mom, but it was quick, mechanical. Lucas just waved. Therapy had helped both kids process the divorce, but their psychologist had been clear with Michael: kids forgive, but they don't forget. The trust Amanda broke will take years to rebuild. If it ever does. Amanda tried to talk to the kids about school, friends, summer plans. They answered in monosyllables. After 15 painful minutes, she turned to Michael, who'd been watching from a distance. "You okay?" she asked, voice small. Michael adjusted his sunglasses against the spring sun. "Better than I deserve to be, considering." "Michael, she swallowed. "I'm sorry. Every day I wake up and I'm sorry. I destroyed everything. I know that." He studied her for a moment. Saw the woman he'd loved for 11 years, now reduced to a shadow. Part of him, small, buried deep, felt a flicker of pity. But the larger part, the part that woke up alone in a cold bed, the part that watched his children still struggling to understand why their family fell apart, that part stayed hard as granite. "No," he said softly but firmly. "You don't feel like you destroyed everything. You feel like you got caught. That's not the same thing. It's not true, Amanda." He said her name for the first time in months. "For 7 months, you had hundreds of chances to stop. To confess. To choose your family. You didn't. So don't come here now pretending regret changes anything. You feel the consequences. Not the actions." He waved to Lucas and Emma. "Let's go. Time to head out." The kids ran over, relieved to escape the tension. Amanda stood frozen in the grass, holding the bag of cheap toys, watching the family she'd shattered walk away. Michael put his hands on his children's shoulders, guiding them along the stone path. Lucas looked back once, saw his mother alone, then looked at his father. "Dad? Yeah, champ? Will Mom come back? Like, for good?" Michael stopped. Knelt down to eye level. Emma moved closer, listening closely. He looked into their eyes, eyes that held pieces of him and Amanda, constant reminders of what was lost. "No, not the way it was," he said honestly. "Things changed. But you'll always have a dad who never leaves. I promise that. Rain or shine, storm or calm, I'll be here. Always." Lucas thought about that, then nodded. Emma held her father's hand. And the three walked on through the park trees, leaving Amanda behind, literally and figuratively. That night, after putting the kids to bed, Michael sat on the living room sofa that no longer felt as empty as it had in the early months. The wedding photos had been replaced by Emma's drawings and Lucas's soccer trophies. The space was slowly becoming something new. He picked up his phone and scrolled through old pictures. There was one from their honeymoon in Tulum, Amanda laughing on the beach, hair blowing, genuine happiness on her face. Or was it? Michael couldn't tell anymore. Maybe that happiness had always been performance. Or maybe, at some point, it had been real, and got lost along the way. He'd never know for sure. He deleted the photo. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just with acceptance. He'd won the legal battle. Secured a stable future for Lucas and Emma. Protected his assets. Exposed the affair. Achieved justice in the most tangible way. But Michael knew the real war was daily, rebuilding trust, teaching his kids that not everyone lies, proving love didn't have to come with betrayal. He'd win that war too. Not because he had evidence or lawyers or legal strategy, but because he had something Amanda never had, an unshakable commitment to the people he loved. And unlike her, Michael Torres never walked away from a fight. He never had. He never would. In the real courtroom of life, that would be his greatest victory. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.